Thank you. You know, it's interesting. There's been a lot of people who've tried to figure out what's the relationship between money and happiness. So a poor man said, I know money isn't everything. I know it's not mine. Another person said, even books on how to be happy are more expensive than I can afford. But the question is, how does that fit? An unknown author said this: money is an article that can be used as a universal passport to everywhere except heaven, and a universal provider of everything except happiness. So what is that price for happiness? And President Kimball said this. He says, the treasure house of happiness is unlocked to those who live the gospel of Jesus Christ in its purity and simplicity. Like a mariner without stars, like a traveler without a compass, is the person who moves along through life without a plan. The assurance of supreme happiness, the certainty of a successful life here and of exaltation and eternal life hereafter, come to those who plan to live their lives in complete harmony with the gospel of Jesus Christ and then consistently follow the course they have set. Yesterday, while we were watching the Super Bowl, I have a program, a journal program, and so I decided to put all my journals for 2016 into one document. And sometime in the future, maybe one of my grandparent kids will be interested in reading it. But I wrote this little introduction, what's the purpose of the journal in front. And it's interesting, when you do something like that, you leave it for your posterity, you think a little bit differently. So kind of in summation, our search for happiness largely depends on the degree of righteousness we obtain, the degree of selflessness we acquire, the amount of quality of service we render, and the inner peace that we enjoy. And on my little dedication, it just basically says we try to follow the example of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Okay. Interesting stuff. Let's start with what we're talking about today. Someone asked me, and they said, Brother Sudweeks, what's the best way to keep up with what we're doing in class? And my comment was, whatever we do that day, go and do it by the end of the day. So you've read beforehand, so we sent that. Now what you do is, after our discussion today, what I'd like you to do, find the template and actually just do it. If you have questions, there's 4 examples of different personal financial plans online, and just do a search on that to the section you want and write it up. Make sure you understand the grading key, because we don't ask you for a lot in each of these sections, but you just have to answer those questions. So what type of credit card user are you? Are you a credit user? Are you a convenience user, or both? I'd like you to include your credit card names, rates, and fees. I do not want credit card numbers. UCCU Visa is fine. Get 1 credit report and 1 credit score. And I'd like you to give the provider, the score, and the rankings. So again, the one that's used by most people is the FICO score, but that may not be used. We'll talk about different places you can use to get your score. Check and ensure your credit report is correct. Again, the credit report is the basis on which your score is calculated. And then action plan. What will you do to improve your credit card use? What will you do to improve your credit score? The goal is to get a credit score above roughly 750, 760, which is kind of the gold thing. Above that, you should be able to get the lowest rate for a house and things like that. Okay, questions on this? So someone want to define credit? Go ahead, Oren.
What's a credit ranking?
Credit ranking is what score? Generally, it's you're in the top 3% or you're top 30% or things like that. Because not all the scores use the same 0 to 850 range. The score is one thing, but I'd like to see where you rank. You're in excellent, or you're in good, or you're in very good, or whatever. Okay. So that's the framework there. So someone want to define credit for me? Yeah, Isaac.
Like short-term borrowed money.
Short-term borrowed money. Okay. What's the purpose of credit? From a marketing standpoint, what's the purpose of credit? Yeah, get what you want now, and basically to get you paying interest for the rest of your life. But is there a purpose? Is there a purpose for credit, and can it be helpful? Let me start with just an email I got. It's just this because I run that or set up that personal finance website. I got this email and it came to me. It says, "Dear Mr. Cornea, regarding providing a way for people to learn about personal finance is a great service to people. I commend you on that. However, what I find uncomfortable to read is the appropriate use of credit. That would seem to be a total contradiction to biblical principles. Proverbs 22:7 states the borrower is servant to the lender. I don't know how a religious institution of higher learning could advocate the use of credit." The first part is just asking a question. Is there anything wrong with questions? No, because we all have lots of them. The second part, though, takes us into the judgment side. And it's really important that when we have questions, it's good to bring them up. We should be asking the questions. But we've got to be careful when we move into the judgment side here. And then he gives me a whole half a page, single-spaced, about points. And then in the end, he says, "There's not anywhere in the Bible that says that debt is okay. I was thinking about attending BYU for a degree in personal finance." We don't have one. "But then I saw the philosophy on credit. I was quite disturbed at what I read. BYU is a religious school, and I would think they would teach biblical principles regarding money. I love this. I look forward to a detailed reply. Respectfully yours." And so when I ask him if it would be okay if I read this in class. And so up here he gives me permission to do this. So how would you reply to that? Any thoughts? Go ahead, Oren.
I think it's kind of an interesting concept that we feel as members of the church. We're always taught to avoid debt, but you need credit and a credit score to be able to purchase a home and do all those things.
Do you have to have credit to purchase a home? No.
Unless you can buy. If you can buy with cash, but
Yeah.
what kind of?
Yeah, it makes it a little easier.
Yeah.
On this.
I don't know from a financial perspective, but at least from a gospel perspective, we always learn that we're all debtors, right?
Yeah.
So when we're working on it, it's all like you said, it's just financial.
It's interesting, we believe everything's the Lord. So someone brought up a question and said, does that mean when we go into debt, we're putting the Lord in debt? But that was it. Well, here's my response. So thanks for your comments. I've reviewed your email and have a few thoughts. I've used a credit card for 45 years and not paid $1 in interest. I call a credit card either one, a tool to help people achieve their financial goals and objective, or two, the single most destructive instrument in the history of mankind. It all depends on the user. Fire is the same type of tool, yet wouldn't say we don't use fire even though people can get burned. Reserve cars, bought things, reserve rooms, and never paid $1 in interest. I've always had the money before I made the purchases. So please know you can use a credit card and not violate Proverbs 22:7. So we add a whole bunch of things. If you read carefully what we teach, notice that we're not saying you should use a credit card for credit, only for convenience and its purposes. We are not teaching to go into debt, exactly the opposite. Rather, we are teaching people to understand the rules of our financial environment and helping them to use those rules to accomplish their personal and family goals. Thank you for your comments. Let's be careful we do not let our own view of what is biblical impinge on someone else's view who might have a slightly different view. As you wrote, I look forward to a detailed reply. Do you think I got a reply? No, I didn't. But questioning is good. Asking questions. Be careful, though, once we take from a questioning point to a judgment perspective. And do likewise in this class, hopefully as we talk, if we have questions, we bring those up. And if it sounds like I'm on the judgment side, please call me on it and I'll back up. The purpose here is really just to answer questions and help. Okay. What's credit reporting? What's credit reporting? You guys have heard of it? This is what people do who put your credit reports together. What is it? So credit reporting is the process where they report on how well you use credit. And from those credit reports, they can determine if you are a good credit risk or a bad credit risk. Credit reporting, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Remember reading an article in the student newspaper about someone who had a job, and then the company went and looked at their credit report, and they rescinded the job offer because they had not used credit wisely. So what do you think? Good thing or bad thing? Nate, what do you think?
Credit reporting?
Yeah.
Oh, good thing.
Okay.
Great thing.
So this is from motleyfool.com. That tells you how highfalutin than I am and the things that I read. It's called The 7 Naked Truths of Credit Reporting. Truth number one, credit reporting is a good thing, not a bad thing. For those of you expecting to get a hellfire and brimstone sermon on the horrors of the credit reporting industry, this may surprise you. Credit reporting is one of the most important economic developments in history. The availability of accurate information about the credit worthiness of individual people and business is what makes the U.S. economy the envy of the world. We can price credit better. Truth number two, lots of mistakes are made. The sheer size of the consumer reporting industry is mind-boggling. There are more than 1,000 consumer reporting agencies in the country. You're probably most familiar with the three biggest, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. 2 million credit reports are ordered each day, and 2 billion pieces of information are added to the credit files each month. The average consumer's credit report is updated 5 times a day. Computers are not. When you use that much information, mistakes are going to be made. Truth number 3, nobody's looking out for you except for you. What most people don't realize is there's almost no structure in place to prevent errors from taking place. CRAs take some steps to make sure the data reported comes in a standard format, but they still can't prevent properly formatted data that's incorrect from being reported. Truth number 4, the laws protect you, not them. First, realize no law has ever been passed that mandates credit reporting. Laws exist to say the credit reporting agencies can do business, not that they must do business. Over the years, there's been a whole bunch of laws passed that are protecting you, the consumer. Laws include the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. And specific provisions in these laws make the rules how the credit reporting agency can do business, puts pressure on them, and it protects you. Truth number 5, it's all just gossip. So really, one person I spoke to recently likened credit reporting to allegations made about you that may be true or may not be true. Still, their allegations are gossip. The implication here is that people are talking about you behind your back. The entire conversation and all of that gossip is sitting there in your credit reports. More importantly, the law says that you can dispute the truthfulness of these allegations, and the people who are talking about you must prove what they are saying is true. Truth number 6, time is on your side. No matter how ugly your credit indiscretions, the laws require that CRAs stop reporting the blemishes after a certain amount of time. For most remarks, both good and bad, they're supposed to stop reporting them after 7 years. The major exception to the 7-year rule is bankruptcy, which stays on the credit report for 10 years. And truth number 7, it's an opt-out world. You do know everyone in the world has your personal information right. If it wasn't immediately clear by all the telephone solicitation, junk postal mail, and spam emails you get, let's break it to you. Everybody knows you. Would like to say you're so popular because of your sparkling personality and wit, but it's more likely that everyone just wants to make a buck off of you. Unfortunately, the only way to opt out is for you to understand the rules of the game and make them work for you. Okay. So understand the rules of the game and make it work for you. One thing I forgot to tell you about, anyone get a lot of credit card applications? You know, what's the risk? Dallin's going, no. What's the risk of credit card applications coming to you here while you're in school? What's to say how often do you move? Quite often. What's to say if one of these credit card applications come to you, come to your old address, someone actually fills it out, sends it, gets a credit card, and starts charging. Is that a risk? It is. Would you like to eliminate a lot of the junk mail that you get? Needless to say, when I did this, I cut my junk mail I cut my junk mail by about 85%. Now the only one who sends me mail is bills. But what you can do is you can actually opt out of these companies that do these pre-approved credit cards. So as you do your credit report, you'll actually see soft polls, and we'll talk about people who have reviewed your credit reports. And so what you can do is you can make it so they cannot send you any of these pre-approved offers. It's something that I would recommend. I've had people tell me that when they do this, it improves their credit score. I don't think there's a justification for that. But what you do, you can go to call 888-567-8688 or 888-5-OPT-OUT, or you can go opt-out pre-screen. You can answer the questions either on the phone or online. It'll ask your phone number, your name, address, social security number. Make sure in the upper left it's HTTPS. Bottom right, you'll see a little lock, so that's secured. And you'll find in 6 to 8 weeks you will stop getting a lot of that junk mail. I strongly suggest you do that just because it eliminates one of the ways of identity theft among college students. Second thing too, anyone get telephone calls from telemarketers at all hours of the day? Usually it comes right during dinner time, and so I'll pick it up and say, hey, do you mind, tell me when your dinner time is, and then I'll call you and interrupt your dinner too. And I don't mean to be rude, and I'm trying to be kinder on those. But now I kind of get a kick out of the phone calls. And when they call, and I can look on the caller ID, and I says, I apologize, I don't mean to be rude, but this phone is on the do not call list, and I believe it's a $1,500 fine every time you call. Do you mind taking this off your list? And most of the time they'll literally hang up and they say, sure, no problem, thank you. But that way we encourage people not to call on those. And so if you actually go to this number here, do not call.gov, you can put up to 3 phone numbers. You'll receive a confirming email. Click on the hyperlink, and you should not be getting any more phone calls. You will, but then you just kindly let them know that this is on the do not call list. At being missionaries, we know what it's like to cold call and things like that. So I try to be nice when I do that. Okay. So let's go back to credit reporting agencies. So credit reporting agencies, what they do is they take all of the information and that's reported to them, and then they put it in a format that people can use. So 3 major credit reporting agencies. Who are they? Equifax, TransUnion, Experian. Again, there's thousands of them, but those are the 3 largest. Those are the ones that we're most used to using. And then what they do, what the credit scoring people do, is they'll take that information and then they will create a credit score. So what it is, most of these are proprietary algorithms that takes the information and they weight certain pieces of information. The number 1 credit scoring company, if you heard, who is it? They're the largest credit scoring company. Yeah, Fair Isaacs and Company. And they create what's called the FICO score. Is there just one FICO score? Or do they have different scores for different industries? Actually, they have different scores for different industries. I was just looking at their website, 28 different FICO scores. So which scores do lenders use? So again, this is out of Consumer Reports. It says claims and disclosures. FICO is not the only credit score you can buy. Vantage Score available from Experian and TransUnion is touting as more consistent and simpler than FICO scores. But Vantage Score carries this disclaimer: your credit score may be different from the score used by a lender. Experian also sells its proprietary Plus score along with its credit reports. The company says your score helps lenders, landlords, and employers quickly gauge your credit history and decide what kind of credit risk you're taking if they approve your application. But Experian's terms of service tell a different story. The Plus score is not currently sold to lenders and is not an endorsement or guarantee of your credit worthiness, as seen by lenders. CR's take: these credit scores probably aren't worth your money. So let's talk about kind of the gold standard. FICO is the one that's mostly used. So how are the weights determined? Thoughts? What are the things that determine if you're a good credit risk or not? Isaac?
Amount of time that you've had credit.
Okay, how long you've had credit? What's the assumption there?
The longer you have it, the better. Right? I guess the more able to predict,
Right.
so you're less risky.
Right, the longer you've had it, the more likelihood you've learned your lessons, and the less risky you are. How about other things? On this.
Your on-time payments.
Yeah, how well have you been at making your payments on time?
What kinds of credit
Byron,
you have?
What kind of credits you have?
Revolving.
If you've got, is it revolving credit? Is it all store credit? Is it all gas credit? You know, that type, your credit mix. Kim?
The amount of available credit you have versus how much.
Oh, that's an interesting one that a lot of people think it's, well, how much credit do you use? Actually, it's how much credit do you use as a percentage of how much do you actually have available to you. If you've got $200 available to you and you spend $200 a month, how much are you actually using? 100%. However, if you spend $200 a month and you've got $2,000 of available credit, how much are you using? 20%. Any other ones? But you know, it's interesting, logically, we've just come up with this.
Your oldest credit line.
Yeah, your oldest credit line. Again, how long? The assumption is the longer you've had it, the better you do it. So these are the weights. Payment record, 35%. So do you make your bills on time? Number 2, total amount owed is a percentage of the limits. Notice that's the second highest one. Keep your balances low, particularly on revolving debt as a percent of your available limit. 3, credit history. Keep your oldest accounts. I had a student come to me and he said, Brother Sudweeks, he says, my name is the same as my dad's. And when I did my credit reports, I find I had a number of my dad's credit cards on my record. He says, you know, I'm 23 years old and he's got 21 years of credit history. He says, what should I do? I said, well, if it's in my favor, I'd probably be too busy to go and make the change. Application history, don't apply for too many cards. You know, a lot of students have applied for 2 or 3 cards and they find that they get turned down. So be careful there. And the last one, credit mix. Don't have too many of the same type of accounts. So that's the way the FICO score works. Do the other scoring agencies work somewhat similar? Yeah, they do. Are the weights exactly the same? No. But go ahead.
So just a clarification on credit mix,
Uh-huh.
is that only talking about like the Karma Store credit cards versus other kinds of
Right.
credit cards? Or are you including like car loans in there as well as a type of credit?
But that car loans would be a type of credit as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have to have lots of credit cards? No. I have 2 credit cards. I have a United card that I get frequent flyer miles on, and I have a Costco card. That's all I have. You know, and the reason I have 2 cards is because that's the only way I can go to Costco is to get there. So what are some of the things? What should we do? You know, we're taught to manage our assets. Should we manage our liabilities as well? You know, and the answer is yes. We should be taking an active role in managing the credit. What happens when we don't manage credit? Yeah. Let me tell you just a quick story. My daughter, a year and a half ago, my wife and I were in Nauvoo, and my daughter went on trek, and she hurt her back. And so when we came back, we said, you know, you really need to go in and get a massage. And so she went into this one place, and she's realized at this time she's 15 years old, and they tried to sign her up for a program. You know, so it was an annual thing, and we talked to her before and says, the last thing we want you to do is sign up for a program. Well, she went out, she had the massage, it helped her out. She went and tried out, you know, did their stuff with the soccer team and did well. And then just December, we got this letter. And it said, you know what, you signed up for a program, 18 months ago, and we charged your debit card, but 9 months ago your debit card wouldn't work anymore. So every month they've added on that. So it says, so now at this time my 16-year-old daughter, you owe what, $540. And so what had happened is every month after that they charge her debit card $60. And this is the money that she used for her lunches. My wife goes, she goes, that's her lunch money. And so, needless to say, we went back and talked to them, and they made everything right. But the point is if my daughter learned that you have to go through all of your debits at the end of every month. She couldn't figure out why she didn't have much money in her account. And Mom and I, we'd continue to put money each month, and we thought she had plenty. But we have to do our parts as we manage those things there too. So we manage our assets. We should manage our credit as well. Make sure you understand the things that go into your credit score. I would encourage you there's a number of free credit scoring things. I've got it's either Credit Sesame or Credit Karma. And so they'll send a note out about every month that says, this is your credit score. And are those good things to do, to use? Probably. Do you need to run a FICO score that they charge you, $16? Probably not. But if you're getting close to the point where you're buying a house, I might do it. Now, question. A credit scoring agency uses different credit reports. Could you have a different score depending on which credit reporting agency you use? Yeah, and it can be as much as 20 to 30 points. So be aware. So we need to be careful.
So, question on that.
Yes.
If we are trying to keep up with our credit score, because, for that reason, for instance, right?
Okay.
Would you recommend not just looking at a credit score from one agency, but getting, competition credit scores?
What I'd probably do is once a year, you're allowed a copy of your credit report from each of the 3 major credit reporting agencies. I would just make sure once a year I check all 3 of them. What do you do if there's mistakes? Yeah. Number 1, contact the creditor. Many of the mistakes can be fixed over time. If you can't get the problem solved, number 2, credit reporting agencies' customer services. So you can fill out this investigative form. Number 3, you can fill out a dispute form. So 100 words explaining the situation and what you did to try to resolve it. So let's just do a little case. Okay. Bill's heard this story. Oren.
Well, I was just gonna say with that, checking your credit report is really important, especially if you have a common name.
Yeah, okay.
My wife's name was really common. There was like 3 or 4 things on her credit report that were not. Like in mine, I actually had friends who were going to buy a home, and he had a credit, somebody else's credit stuff ended up on his credit report, and they weren't declined for their home loan because of it.
Okay. So what's required in this class? Each of you are going to have to pull 1 credit report. Each of you are going to have to pull 1 credit score. Now, it used to have people do the FICO scores, but it cost, like, after coupons, it would cost $14, $16. So right now, what we'll do is we'll allow you guys just use any of the credit scoring agencies, Credit Karma, Credit Sesame. Any other ones you guys use to get your credit score? Yes?
Well, my bank provides free credit scores as well as the companies I like credit cards through Chase and Capital
Okay.
One also provide free credit scores.
Okay, so Chase and Capital One. Even Quicken, you can look at that, but be careful on the Quicken. What they do is once you sign up for your credit score, you agree to credit monitoring, and that's the last thing you want.
One other thing
Byron.
I mentioned is when you apply for, let's say, a credit card or a loan or anything like that, you can ask the creditor to look at your credit report. They can't let you leave with it, federal regulation, whatever it is, but they are allowed to show it to you, so you can see your credit score. You can look at your report right there as well. So just another place to see what your credit score is.
Right, and a lot of the new credit cards too, they're having an option there where they've made agreements where you can just see your credit score. So is it a good idea just to kind of watch it? Yeah, it is. So reading about the importance of keeping a high credit score, he got his FICO score of 690. We heard a rumor he had to reduce the number of cards. Instead of helping, the next time he purchased his FICO score, it dropped by 40 points. I had a student who came up to me and said this exactly happened, only it wasn't 40 points, it was 50 points. So, possible reasons why his score may have dropped. Isaac, he got rid of his oldest card. Another thought. It's one reason.
He got rid of his cards with the highest available credit, so
He-
his amount of credits dropped.
He got rid of the card with the highest amount of credit, so his available credits dropped.
The cards that he dropped reduced the type of
The cards that he dropped reduced the types of credit that he had, so his mix was bad. So that's right. So here's one of the assignments that I'm giving you. Do you think credit cards want to keep you as a customer? Yeah, because they look at you as an ATM because they can, ideally they can continue. One of the biggest concerns people have, especially college students, what do you think one of the biggest detriments to their score is, other than a short time period of having history? Yeah, right, so low credit card amounts. What I'd like you guys to do, and there's a tiny risk here, is I'd like to have each of you call your credit card company and see if you can either get a lowering interest rate, or they can increase your credit limit. If they've increased your credit limit in the last 3 months, they won't be able to do that. Generally, it's about every 6 months. But I'd like you to do that, and I'll have a question on the quiz, did you do this, and what did they do? And so it lets me know how many people actually got an increase in their credit limit or reduction. And it's generally about 2/3 in the class. But I'd like you to do that. Here's kind of the way we normally do that is I'll talk to the credit card company and I'll say, you ever heard the sandwich method in getting, and when you're working with challenges? The sandwich method is white bread, meat, and white bread. So I start off with the white bread. You know what? Hey, thanks. I really enjoyed the card. The card's been very helpful to me. And then you hit the meat. What do you really want? Imagine my surprise when, I notice my buddies' credit cards, they have lower interest rates or they have significantly higher credit limits. And then go back to the meat. I was just wondering if I could get an increase of credit limit. And you can even say I'm doing this as part of my personal finance class because I'm trying to improve my credit score. But you could do that. But I'd like you to do that. Now, realize when you just look at your credit score or your credit reports, does that have an impact on your score? No. Actually, no. It's called a soft pull. However, when your credit card company requests information so that they can raise your credit limit, is that a soft or a hard pull? That's a hard pull too. So it may have an impact on that. If you're concerned about that, come and talk to me. Generally what I found is that the benefits of the increased score is sufficiently more than offsetting that. Isaac, you had a question.
Yeah, so I've had like a few people offer InStore Credit and they say, oh, it's just a soft pull, like don't worry about it. Is that true, or are they just...
InStore Credit, generally it is a hard pull because they are.
I mean, is it even possible to do a soft pull?
Anyone have experience with that? That's questions beyond my pay grade.
My experience is the difference between like pre-approval and actually approved. So when you get like the mailers and things like that, that's always been they're extending credit to you and giving you an offer. That's because they did a soft pull and you fall under their pre-approval rankings. But when it's actually a lender wanting to lend, it's always a hard pull.
Yeah, that would be my impression on that too. So here's the question here. What should he have done to make sure his score didn't drop? Which is actually kind of what your assignment is with your credit card company. Now, if you don't have a credit card, what I'd like you to do, your assignment is just kind of go look at some credit cards. Doesn't mean you have to take one out, but you can kind of go look. And then if you have some questions on the assignment, we can talk after this. But what should he have done to make sure score didn't drop? Kind of the inverse of everything we just said. Yeah. Number one, to make sure it's not your longest history. Number two, before dropping the cards, what you do is you call the card that you want to keep, and you ask them to increase the credit limit. Tell them you're dropping the number of cards, and you need to keep that credit limit high for X, Y, and Z reason. And number three, just make sure your mix is right. Yes?
Would it be wise
Tanner.
to just not use those cards, just cut them up and be like, I'll just keep them open?
You could.
And then just that way you have credit, like you have a long history.
Those are viable ways. You just, the risk is someone finds that card number. Yeah. Jackson.
You were in our shoes as college students. What would be a good, if we're increasing our credit limit, what would you
Forever,
recommend?
I'll let you.
Yeah.
So ideally, what research is shown that if you can keep the amount usage is somewhere between 10 and 15%, or maybe it's 10 and 17%. That's kind of the ideal limit for the high. So you're using roughly about 10% of that usage. So if you find you use $200, or let's say you use $400 a month, and you probably would want $4,000, something like that.
Is the limit considered the amount of balance that you're carrying on the credit card, or if you pay it off completely, is it 0% of your
So it's kind of your average amount on the credit card divided by your total available limit.
Okay, so if you pay it off all completely, but you use that 50% of purchases.
So what other things above what we've talked about? Just some thoughts. Payment record, tighten his budget, save 20%. Make sure you pay your bills on time. Use that 20% in additional money to pay down debt after your emergency fund. Limits. Companies and request an increase in credit limits. This will help you. So do we understand the assignment? It will be on the next quiz. It will just be a question. No, regardless, as long as you had tried, you'll get credit on the quiz question. So we're doing a gimme question right here. But it's nice for me because I get the sense how many people actually got an increase in their credit limits. Jackson.
Is it better to just call them or to make an appointment and go and sit down?
I just call them. Or you might even be able to do it online. A lot of the students, companies will automatically, some companies will automatically increase your credit limits. Oren.
What's better, like a higher credit limit or a lower interest rate?
Considering we don't use credit, the higher credit limit's really what we want. Okay. Kid.
Make sure one thing, some cards have annual fees.
Uh-huh.
So some cards have like $100 annual fee, so just make sure this credit card you're going to be carrying for 20 years that you're not paying $100 a year.
Yeah, that's right. So I sent you an email around talking about suggestions from students. So if any of you guys have suggestions you'd like to add, if you just send it to me, put in the header 418 suggestions from students, and we'll put this one back. So Oren added a few things here. So what we'll do is put your initials and your year so we can kind of have the knowledge of this class move on to other ones. And we'll be doing this for every single one of these PowerPoints. So encourage you to send those off.
Professor Sudweeks?
Yes?
Oh, shoot, I just spaced my question.
Look, I'm the one who's supposed to be doing that. I'm the old guy.
I'll ask you.
Okay. Sure.
So if you're married and you're looking at taking out a loan, how does that factor in? Does it look at both credit scores or just one of the scores?
Okay, Jill, so the question is, are you taking out the loan in one person's name or in both? So are these student loans or?
No, like looking in the future, like in a year and a half, we're going to be looking to buy a home.
Buy a home. And so we'll actually, there's some questions we talk about that. Ideally, what you'll do is you'll buy it on, it's a combination of a number of things. But ideally, you should try to improve the credit scores of both spouses. There's a couple of different ways you can do that. They're also on the slides too. But that's what you'd like to do. And if, depending on who has the higher credit score, sometimes you can do the loan on one spouse. But there's different ways. And so in the PowerPoints, we actually have a section on that.
Remember my question.
Isaac, oh, good.
If this logic is correct. So the credit companies or credit scoring companies keep like 7 years of data on you, right? So if, like, let's say you buy a credit card at year 1 and a credit card at year 3, as soon as both of those credit cards like have 7 years, you can get rid of the first one. So you don't have to keep your oldest card as long as. Does that make sense?
And your credit indiscretions, good, or the credit history, good and bad, but the length of time on the card stays there. So, Tanner.
Do you have any thoughts on like
Opening up a credit card for like Southwest for miles or points or whatever. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like, my wife's always bringing that up, and I don't like it.
I hate going shopping around Christmas time, especially when my kids were younger, because they see these things, open up a credit card, you get 20% off of things. And my kids say, Dad, I only have X amount of dollars to spend on a Christmas gift for Ashley. If we go there, I get 20% off. And so I didn't like doing that, and just realize it has an impact on your credit score every time you open up one of those cards. Okay.
would you recommend that for like us, or stay away from it?
I'd probably stay away from it. The last thing you need. But that's just my personal opinion. So, we've kind of gone through a lot of these things here. What are the principles of effective credit card use? Talked about a lot of stuff here. And if we really understand those principles, ideally, then what we should be able to do, by following the principles, it should give us the guidance we need. So thoughts, principles. Byron.
I think just like what we talked about at the beginning of the semester, how we are stewards of what the Lord has given to us. The money we're spending on credit cards is not our money. We're borrowing it from someone else. We are stewards of the money that they've lent to us, and we need to be responsible with that. We need to take care of the money that they gave us and not abuse the right to use that credit.
So this isn't our money. I'm amazed that people think that this is their money. And it's not. So number one, don't abuse the right. Realize it's borrowing.
If you budget right, there will never be need to have
Yeah. You budget right, and you have your emergency fund, you won't have the need for it. Other principles. Andres.
I think we similar to the car where, it's just a tool for means, but not a means in itself. So we don't.
It's a right. It's a tool and a means, not an end in itself. Other thoughts. And credit comes into the lines of comes in the lines of debt. Because if we know our goal is to follow the prophets and follow what the scriptures say to stay out of debt, then that will lead us into our framework here. So here's just some thoughts. Understand your mission, values, vision, goals, including your goal to stay out of debt. Know where you are financially. Keep current. Plan purchases that are in your budget and they're planned for, particularly large purchases. So large purchases in our family, we plan for them at the beginning of the year. Well, I should say for most of them. We had a heater go out last year that wasn't a planned purchase. I hate to say, Friday, we live on a hill. Friday, the police came to my wife and said, "Hey, did you know that you're losing part of your hill on the backyard?" Apparently one of the kids, we have a pool cover, and there's a pump that just kind of cleans off the water off the pool cover. And the water wasn't draining fast enough, so they just stuck it over the wall in the back. And we noticed said, yeah, the people who live down below you, they noticed that part of your hill gave way. So there's like a 6-foot hole, 6 foot wide, 6 foot deep, that just started from this little pool cover thing. And it kind of reminded me that, most of the problems in life come from just little things. Just a little hose like this. And because it kept dripping and because it started wearing away, and pretty soon the combination with the snow and the rain we've been having here, it took a big hunk of the hill, and so now we've got a big challenge there. But so other than purchases like that, I won't tell you what that's going to cost to be fixed, but that's something I'm working on this afternoon. But we should have planned purchases. You can plan purchases on things like automobiles and toys and things like this. All of those things should be planned. Be wise in your use of credit use and debt, and don't go into debt except for a modest home and education. Review it. Credit reports. Make sure you review all your debits. from your debit cards and things like that.
So
Like,
we noticed about 2 weeks ago somebody using my wife's debit card
okay?
like Tennessee to buy a tea.
Several $100s of tea. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a normal purchase for you guys.
Absolutely. So we called up our credit union, and I talked to one of the counselors. We got it sorted out because it was a low amount. They reimbursed it, but I don't think they're on the hook generally for debit card fraud. So he recommended making making most of our purchases that we can on our credit card and paying it off to maintain a low balance. That 10 to 17% of our credit limit is of the balance, not of what we spend in a month.
So that's 10% of what you spend on the month divided by your total available balance.
So it's what we spend, not on a balance
Right.
as the credit card.
So what's the difference between a debit card and a credit card?
Debit card is your only money, credit is lended.
Okay. How much are you at risk if someone gets your debit card? Yeah, 100%. How about if someone gets your credit card? First $50. There's another question. Does a debit card, do you build credit with a debit card? No, you don't. So there's uses for them. But be wise in what you do. What are the benefits and costs of credit cards? Where's my credit card? Credit card debt, average use per U.S. household. Now this is credit card debt. This does not include mortgage debt. So are we addicted to debt as an economy or as a people? To a large degree. You know, and what do we want for people here? Don't be part of this. I did a study that said the average family spends, and I think the interest was like $1,500 per person. So on a family of 6 would be like, $9,000 a year in debt. Wouldn't we be so much better off if instead of spending that on interest, if we spent that on the goals and the things that are important for you? Okay, Daz. Okay. So what happens when you lose a credit card? Let me just tell a quick story. My wife and I, we were skiing. We were on the back mountain up there in Sundance. And as we were going up there, the nice thing is you still have cell reception there. We were going up on the lift back there, and we got a call from my daughter. And she says, "Dad," she says, "I'm so upset." She says, "I went into the restrooms at the library, and I put my backpack up on the shelf, and when I came out from the back room, someone had stolen my backpack." Thankfully, what they have now is I notice they have shelves in the bathrooms there, so you can put your stuff there. So we've gotten smarter here at BYU. She goes, "Dad, what do I do?" And so I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what are the things you've got to do? What are the things I teach in my class? So I talked to her. I says, well, first of all, you've got to call the police. Number 2, you've got to call each of the credit reporting agencies. And then you got, first of all, call your credit card companies, call the police, call your credit reporting agencies too, to let them know that your card was stolen. So she says, okay, I'll go do those things. So that's important that you have some place that you have copied the front and back of your credit card so you have the numbers to call in case there's a problem. Of course, did it stop us from skiing? No, we continued to ski. Figured not much else we can do. So we continued skiing, and a couple hours later, we were on the same lift, and they go, we got a phone call that says, "Hello, this is the BYU police. We found this backpack that had a phone and a wallet in it. And we just pushed the button that said Dad." So we just said, "Yeah, my daughter told me that it had been stolen." And it just wasn't her phone and her wallet too, but it had her computer in it, had all her classwork, all of her books, and things like that too. So thankfully she got back. What they did is they were really just looking for cash. So they took the cash, they took their credit cards, and then they just left everything else. And so when we got home, we made those phone calls. And so just things that you should do. Again, number one, call your credit card company. Make sure you copy cards front and back and keep the numbers handy to report any loss. Number two, file a police report immediately. What happens when you don't file the police report? Credit card company could think, well, they're making a purchase and they just don't want to be held accountable for it too. So it really just shows that you're serious there. Three, each of the numbers here, place a fraud alert on your name and social security card. Okay. So can we be successful with our credit? So let me just read a couple of stories. This is just from students. It says, hi, Professor Sudweeks. You may not remember me. I'm blank, and I took your class last winter. When I started your class in January, my credit score was 668. Using the methods we talked about in class, my score has increased every month, and I'm happy to report that my score is now 764. Again, credit, the kind of the gold standard is 750 and above. So I'm over the 750 mark finally. My credit debt is almost all paid off now as well. The key to my score increase was opening another credit card that I never used, but it reduced the proportion of balances to credit limits. So that's what we're asking you to do as part of your assignment. I also have been using your savings method, trying to save 20%. Although I haven't yet saved that much in a month, I'm getting better. And then using the saved income each month to pay off the debt. It also helps the proportion of balances to credit limits. Always, I was excited when I saw my score, and it made me think of you and your class, and I'm grateful that I took it and learned valuable stuff that's affecting my life. Here's another one. Dr. Sudweeks, I went about an experience I had with credit score this semester. When I checked my credit score in February, I was expecting it to be quite high, but I was shocked to see it was only 666. It was a FICO. I looked through my report and found a couple surprises. There was a collection on my account placed on my credit report in May that I didn't know about since I hadn't received anything in the mail regarding it. I looked through some of my old paperwork to figure out that what it could possibly be, and eventually after some work and some calls found out it was from a hospital visit from December of 2007. I had received one bill for that visit, but nothing else ever came. Apparently there was another bill mailed separately that I never received due to an incorrect address on file. That incorrect address got passed on to the collections, and so I never heard anything about it. In any case, I called up and paid off the bill at the collections agency. I requested they request the collection to be removed from my report, and they agreed to do so due to the problem with the mail. I thought it would take months for it to get done, but I decided to go and look at some of my other credit reports. About 2 months after checking the score, I was surprised to see that the collection was completely gone off my credit reports. I went ahead, ordered another credit score, again FICO, and was glad to see that it improved to 781. Although I think the removal of the collection had the biggest impact on the score, it also made some adjustments to decrease my debt to credit ratio from 20% to about 10%. That probably had somewhat of a positive effect on my score as well. It's okay to share this story with your classes. Thanks again for a great class. So can we make a difference? And the answer is yes. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is let's take you through the process. How do you get your credit report? And how do you get your credit score? Most of us are pretty familiar with the credit score. We've gone to a number of different ones. But let's take you through a credit report. Someone want to be a volunteer? Okay, come on up here. Come on down.
I had to do this thing about a week anyway.
Yeah. Do you have a jump drive?
I don't.
Okay, that's all right. I've got one. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to go to annualcreditreport.com. Again, you're allowed every year to get a copy of one report from each of those. So, Byron, you want to click on request your free credit reports? So 3 steps, yes?
Does it have to be like all at the same time? Your
Nope.
class, like 3 are going to be like...
Yeah, so what I do about every 4 months, I do another one. course, in my case, the first time I did this, I didn't answer the questions right. So I took the third one before I finally got one that my questions were answered correctly. Yeah, they'll lock you out. So, okay, fill out a form, request your credit reports, down in the middle. Okay. So what we're going to do is, well, Byron's doing this. I'm going to hide this. So his social security is 391-427-682. So, so let's talk about who's here has gotten their credit score before. How did you guys get it? Pardon me, where did you go?
I use the website ones.
Okay. So there's the credit reports. How many people have gotten credit scores? So this right here is the place where you go. Annualcreditreport.com for your credit reports. Again, everyone's going to need to do this. Do I care which credit reporting agency you use? And the answer is no. Go ahead, Oren.
So I got all three of mine like within the last year, so I don't have a free one.
Okay.
What do you want us to do in that case?
Just make a comment that says, I've got all three of mine within the last year.
Okay.
So the other thing you can do is you can go to MyFICO and you can get a credit score and a credit report at the same place.
Okay.
But that costs you money. So ideally you want to find a place that you can get a FICO score for free. So that's because that is the standard. But if not, we'll accept the other ones too. Okay, how many people have had credit scores, gotten your credit score? Erin, how did you get it?
So my credit card, just every month when I get my statement, it also reminds me like, hey, you can log on to this and see your credit score.
Okay.
Or credit-wise.
Okay.
And so I can just see it every month.
Do you know who the provider of that credit score is?
I think it's just credit-wise. I think is what it's called.
CreditWise is the. So you need to find out who the.
You want me to use anyone?
Nope. So, but what you need to do is you'll get your credit score. You got to know which credit report provider you use. So on free ones like that, you have to figure out what the credit score provider is. Anyone else gotten their credit score? Yes, or what kind was it, and how'd you get it?
My FICO score, I always use, like Discover has those commercials for the Discover scorecard.
Okay.
It updates once a month.
Okay.
And I think one of my credit cards gives it to me too, but they're actually 20 or 25 point difference.
Okay. So notice that there's a 20, 25 point difference on those two. Anyone else? So now let's see if he can answer the questions right. This is the hardest part. You have to sit here and figure out, hey, what county do I live in? Let's see if you got the questions right. Byron, are you really Byron? Yes?
So as far as getting a credit score, is there any place you would recommend it to go to?
Like I said, how soon are you going to be buying a house? 2 or 3 years. I'd probably wait. So I think something like a Credit Karma or a Credit Sesame or any of these free providers would be okay. But what you want to do is you want to find out. Okay, so see let's see. So now this one here, so let's take a look at the report. So credit report, personal information. So begin the credit report. Here's the account information. So this is, notice how many addresses he's had? 3 addresses. So you move a little bit. Let's keep, so account information, satisfactory accounts. So we can actually see the accounts. Chase, OneServe, Barclays, First Community, Department Store. Keep going. Just go to the bottom of this one here. So what I wanted to show you some other things here at the bottom of the okay, that's all right. Account review inquiries. So these are accounts that they've made inquiries on his accounts. So BMO Harris Bank. No, most of these are KPMG. Is that who you have a job with? So did his company that he has a job with, so you have an offer with KPMG? So I don't know if they did this before or after they made the offer. But do companies use this information?
It was before.
Okay, so you probably had to sign a right. So do companies look at this information in their deciding to give you an offer? They may. So here, if we have any dispute, report an inaccuracy, consumer rights, and all the things. So let's go up a little bit. Let's go. Show me my credit score. Get a little bit more. Next, see my free credit score. Takes score. Yeah, there's a button right there. Up a little bit. Now that you got your report, get your free score. So now you have to fill this in again. So again, the important thing is we all do this. That we know our credit reports. That we go through and make sure that we know each of those banks that we have there and each of those credit cards. Once we have that credit score, then it's important that we go through and do our credit reports. Then we go through and understand what our credit scores are. We have a couple of people here, or not from the U.S. What happens if you don't have a credit card? Can you get a simulation of your credit score? Yeah, on the website, or on the PowerPoints, we talk about, you can go to myfico.com and there's a credit simulation, so you can get a good idea. But everyone here has to have at least one credit report, and it has to have a credit score. Okay, questions on that? Does that make sense? Okay. You answer those questions?
Yep.
Okay, so let's kind of take a look here. State and federal from start to finish. Oh, go back to there. Notice that thing there. That actually said Credit Karma has a framework now that they'll do taxes. They'll do federal and state too, which is unique. A lot of places will do federal for free, and they charge you to do state. Okay. Notice you've got two different reports here, TransUnion and Equifax. Both of those good. So let's come. So what is the credit score that he uses here on this one here? It's a Vantage score 3.0. So notice they go to the same 850 that the FICO score does, so that for people. But what Byron's going to need to do, he's going to need to be his score. He's going to need to know what credit scoring, what was the credit score? It's a Vantage score. He used two different ones. He used Equifax and TransUnion. And then the final thing was, where is he? He's in the good range. So let's go down and see if they give you a little bit more information on what you can do to improve your score. Payment history, average age of credit history, 2 accounts, average age 6'7", 6 years and 7 months. Credit inquiries, overall credit utilization. So you're at 47%. Would that be a big reason why his score is a little bit on the low side? The answer is yes. So if Byron goes out and he calls his main credit card and they're able to increase his credit score, credit limit. His limit now is $3,600. If they could increase it by $2,000 or $3,000, would that have an impact? Yeah. So you might work on that. Let's see if there's anything other ones. So with each of these things, then Byron's strategy is he has to say what is he going to do to improve his credit card use, and what is he going to do to improve his credit score. So give some suggestions on what Byron can do to improve his credit score. What? Higher credit limit. So as part of the assignment, that should help you out there. And I'd be interested to see if you get it, and then to see what that does to your score. Other suggestions for him, because each of you are going to have to do that same thing. So it's not enough to come to class and say, oh, we talked about good stuff. You guys have to go, and then you guys have to go, and you have to do this, and you have to apply it. Other suggestions for him. Can he do much about his credit card, the length of history? No. And I didn't see your mix either. But again, paying his bills on time.
It's all revolving at this point because I paid off my car. So.
Okay, all revolving. So when did you pay out? When did you finish paying off your car? 2 weeks ago. Will that have an impact here? Yeah. So some things just take time. Any other suggestions for him? Okay, thanks. Let me give you a jump drive. Do you have your computer here? Yeah. Okay, I think I have it. Here's a jump drive. Okay. So, is it wrong to use a credit card? Probably, as long as it's not for credit. As long as you have the money and you can pay it off, you're probably okay. Again, I call a credit card either a tool to help you accomplish your financial and personal and financial goals, or the single most destructive financial instrument in the history of mankind. Have lots of people had problems there. Let me finish with one more story. I have a brother, his daughter came to BYU, and she got one of these student credit cards. And sad to say, she wasn't being very careful, and she racked it up. And they were charging her like 16, 17%. And when she graduated, she had a significant amount on that credit card. My brother got really mad. He called up the credit card company. And he says, how do you expect these kids to pay off these credit cards at these huge interest rates? And the person on the end of the line was probably a little bit more honest than he should have been. And he says, we don't. We expect the parents to do it. And he got so mad that he paid it off. But the point here is we need to use wisdom in what we do. We need to understand our goals and what we're trying to accomplish. And again, fire is an important tool. We can use it to warm our houses. It can burn them down. But we have to be wise in what we do. So let's talk about what are our takeaways. What are the things we will take away? Because each of you have to write down your takeaways each day. And again, it doesn't have to be exactly what we were talking about.
Just the importance of being very vigilant and monitoring your credit and being aware of what's going on.
Be vigilant and monitoring your credit. It's like that hose that was stuck over the top of the hill. It doesn't seem like an awful lot, just a little bit of holes trickling out, but it made a huge hole in my back wall. And it can be very expensive. We've got to monitor the little things. Go ahead. Who's next?
I was just gonna say, kind of similar to that, is building credit takes a long time to realize. I think if we're not on top of it every month or whatever, it can get away.
Building credit takes a long time. If we don't stay on top of it, it can get away from it. Erin?
Just learning like what builds your credit score. Like even though you have a certain allotment on your credit card, you shouldn't use it all.
Yeah, even though you know what builds your credit score. Even though you only have a certain allotment, you shouldn't use it all. Randy? And then
yeah, just to reduce my credit usage to the credit availability, because I always thought like using credit is good as long as you pay it off right away.
Okay. Yeah.
Using a smaller percentage.
Use a smaller percentage. Aaron?
I gotta be prepared in case of lost car, because I haven't done any of the things on that slide. That was the one thing I had nothing on.
I tell that story, and I made copies of it, but I don't know where the copies are, so I'm gonna have to redo that. Anyone else? Who haven't I picked? Go ahead.
I just forgot it.
You're good. You can go ahead. See, I tend to do that to people, you know.
Yeah, you're good. I had it. That's on my slide. I wrote it down. Oh yeah, it doesn't hurt to like ask questions because you can like talk to them about what your options are, and the worst that they can say is no, and they're not worse out for it.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Your credit card companies, they want to keep you as a client. If you leave, they're not making any money. And so they'll try to work with you. Let me just share my takeaways. Number one, we manage our assets. Let's manage our liabilities as well. If we can do this wisely, a credit score, it'll help you reduce your costs for what? mortgage, a car payment. Did you know that that insurance companies, when they look at charging you on insurance, they will look at your credit score as well? So it has an impact there as well. Number 2, know before you go. Never go for a mortgage, car and credit, cell phone, insurance without knowing your credit score. It can have a big impact. And the third thing, understand the relationship between money and happiness. Too many in this generation are thinking that happiness comes through having lots of money, nice cars, and nice houses. The downside is that happiness comes through obeying the gospel of Jesus Christ. And those are the things, when you get to be old like me, you'll see the things that are really important. Thanks, everyone. We will see you on Wednesday.